Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team, and what we're going to be talking about today is an all-night goblin army. So this is something that I had a request to do, and, there's really different levels to what an night goblin themed list is. Some guys, they'll just say, alright, I'm mainly night goblins, that's good enough. Others will be talking about, alright, it's all just goblins. Like, sure, I got things like spear chukkas and doom divers, but I've gone and I've used night goblin models for those. They're still goblins. But what I'm going to be talking about here is a pure night goblin army, and how you're going to make this actually work in 8th, which is not really an easy thing. The one thing that it does have going for it is numbers. And that's the reason why you'll see a lot of people wanting to do the Night Goblin army. If you have access to the old starter set, you can get tons of these guys. They're very fast and easy to paint, and you can get a lot of them very quickly, which is great, seeing as how they're only 3 points. The problem you're going to have with an all-Night Goblin army, especially if you're staying true to it and you're going to have to go with a Night Goblin general, is the fact that you're going to have a guy that's going to be maxing out on Leadership 7, which is pretty crummy for a general. So let's go and talk about what we're going to be doing here. So of course our first thing is going to be your bread and butter. It's all going to be based off of your Night Goblins, right? You're going to want to have lots of them. You're going to know that you're going to need to be doing attrition. So we're going to be talking about my whole good old blocks of 100 with spears, or maybe even, in this case, maybe even shields, because you need to be lasting. But I think that spears are the best way to go. Now, you're going to need to find some sort of heavy hitters. And if you actually are staying true to your theme, you're not going to have any chariots, you're not going to have any trolls, anything like that. So really, the only heavy hitter you might have is your squig herds. Your squig herds with their great 2 strength 5 attacks will be great. You might have 1 or 2 herds of those, but then again, let's be honest, squigs are very expensive, so you'll be lucky if you have 1 unit, and that's probably going to be your central block unit. Apart from that, you're going to be having your blocks of 100, but they're going to need to find some way to support themselves. So how are you going to do that? Well, the great old way of the Night Goblin big bosses with great weapons. And especially since you're not having any support come in, you're going to want at least to have 3 in there, right? 3 with the great weapons, smashing all the time, and you might even want to go more. 4 or 5, I could totally see as a viable way to go, especially when you know that that's all you're going to have. Now, if we're looking at this already, we have our Squig Horde that's going to be your center chomp away block. Either side, you have your 100, lots of different characters in. Behind that, obviously, you're going to have your bunker. Now, you are having the big trouble with leadership. You're going to make sure to protect it. So back there, you're going to have your bunker of archers or whatever you're going to have. You're going to have your general, and you're going to need your BSB with the banner of the discipline. So you can at least have leadership 8, which isn't fantastic, but at least it's something. Now, apart from that, when it comes to magic in a Night Goblin army, your shamans don't really have any mounts that they'll be wanting to go on. They don't really have wolves or anything if they're a Night Goblin. So you're just going to be a regular guy on foot. Now, the hard thing here is going to be that your best spell is that whole vortex. Now, you can be putting your level 4 in the back, but that means that your vortex is going to be almost useless. So with that, you're going to have to be deciding how you're going to want to be playing it. If you want to be having maybe him take a chance and go to the front and going from there. But some of the theories that some other people have talked about that I think would be actually perfect here is the multiple level 1s. So what that means is that maybe for dispelling you might have the level 4 in the back, but in your blocks in the front you might actually want a couple of level 1s. And that's the reason for is because your smaller spells are probably going to be the ones that you're going to be spamming. Because you get that extra dice with your Night Goblin Shamans, you're probably going to be throwing not very much. There's a good chance you won't make the casting level, rolling a 1 or a 2, so you need to have backups. So You might even try getting away not running a level 4, but as far as dispel power goes, and also doing the whole victory point denial, I think you're going to want to have that level 4 in the back and then the level 1s in the front. And of course, they're just going to be in the corners. If you ever get the vortex, you can throw everything out. Who cares if your level 1 dies and he's in a good placement to do it. So there you have that. So now when we're looking at our Night Goblin army, we got our Squig Horde, blocks of 100, bosses in there, level 1s. In the back, we have our bunker, and we have our general, our BSB, and possibly our level 4. Now, the problem now is that as we go out from this point, we are covering a good part of the board already. We got 3 hordes, but we do not have that much on the flank, and we still have a lot of points left. Now, what you could try and do is, well, that's easy, Malorian. Why don't you just put another block of 100 with more bosses? And that can work okay, but the problem now is that your general's leadership bubble probably isn't going to go to that 4th and the 5th horde. So what does that mean? Does that mean you can't do it? Well, no. It means you can do it, but now to support it, you're going to need to have additional Night Goblin Lords. So that at least if you ever lose, you're going to have the leadership 7. Now, if you have this, that means that your opponents are going to be trying to kill them. So you're going to have to make sure that they're defensive. So you're going to have your other bosses in there, just like you did in your other ones, to be taking challenges and fighting if needed, and even taking away the attention of the opponent. But when you're giving the gear to these guys, your 2+ armor you want to have in there, stuff that's going to be making the weapon skill 10 or the -1 hit or a 4+ ward save, something to keep them more alive. And in fact, something you might want to do for our psychology wise is don't give him a great weapon. Of course, this might seem stupid because, well, he's a Lord level character. He has 4 attacks with a great strength and everything. But if you give him a great weapon, your opponent will probably want to direct more attacks at him, thinking like, man, this guy has good leadership and going to be hurting me. Whereas if you just went with hand weapon shield, not only is he less of a threat to your opponent, but he's also going to be more defensive-wise, having an armor save and a parry save. So with these lords, they're just there for leadership. I would actually back away from the great weapon, go with the hand weapon shield. Now, once you do this, we're pretty much covering the entire board. We got our Squig Horde, block of 100 with additional Lord, bunker in the back with all key characters. You might still have some points left just because this stuff is so much. Now, of course, where you can be adding in points, you're going to be having nets all the way across. Something you might actually want to do too is your bunker. You probably want to go bigger than 100 just because their leadership is so critical, and you do not want these guys going to the front lines. So you might want to be making that bunker in the back larger. You can get the fanatics as well. The best place to have any of your fanatics will be that bunker in the back. If you have fanatics in the units in the front, your opponent can always go in with dogs or eagles or something like that to draw them out. But like I've talked about before as fanatic tactics, your best thing to do is going to have them at the back here so you can run them through your lines. And, it's not so great running them through your squigs, but if you throw them through your hordes, that's not such of a big deal. And of course, it's always great to have a couple in there as well if they're trying to fly around and get to your bunker. Now, if you're going to be having some fanatics anywhere else, we got our Squig Horde, double 100s, I would put them on the outside ones. And the reason for that is if they're going to go and try and draw something out, they're probably going to go straight in the center and try and draw it out that way. That will mean that nothing's being drawn out. The other reason is that if they attack your Squig Horde, you're not too worried. That's your combat block. It's supposed to be able to support itself. The main thing you're trying to make sure is that they're not doing too much damage and hitting your sides or the fast cav that's going to be trying to go around the outside. So if I was going to be putting fanatics anywhere else, it'd be on the outside 100, and you're also working angles. Because if they're coming in on your inner blocks and you're shooting up, remember the main thing you want them to do is to actually land on it. And so you can go from one corner across from the side and you have a pretty good chance that it won't go off. However, it's even better if you start it from the block on the side, because then if you get 2 inches, you're still there, and if you go 12, you should still be in as well. So there's a 0% chance that it's going to miss, and you know that the opponent is going to land on that and get decimated. Now, another unit we can look at is the squeak hoppers. Now, squeak hoppers are pretty horrible. They die very easily, they don't have the best initiative, so they can be killed really quickly, and when you're being attacked, they're going to be using the weapon skill of the rider, which is 2. Now, you can still be using these on the flank. You could be throwing a few on either flank, trying to rush around, getting to war machines and things like that. And if you do that, you might want to also throw in some cheap little bosses on the cave squigs. You know, I'm talking no equipment, maybe a great weapon or something. And the big thing here is that then you get to re-roll how fast they go and zip them up. If you're doing this, I really am going to be talking about keeping it as cheap as possible. You know, min-sized unit of your squig hoppers, and then a night goblin big boss on a cave squig with a great weapon. Done. Throw them up. They can go for, you know, maybe trying to clear out some fast cav if it's coming around. Go after the war machines. And then, of course, if they really get around, they can get to the bunkers. Now, the only real thing I haven't touched yet so far is on the special character. Now, the special character Night Goblin, he is okay. His abilities aren't as great as they used to be. Because you don't really see as much shooting anymore. That used to be one of his best things. Of course, you roll a dice for each one, and if you get a 1, then it doesn't start on. So when you're going to see all these war machines and stuff, you have this great chance of trying to be screwing all these things up. But especially now with even the longer charges, something can be coming up, move up, and they're still going to be charging on turn 2. So it's not all that big of a deal all the time. One of the things that it can give you, though, is it can get away with some of these more critical units for the missions. So maybe if they have the unit of 20 that wants to go into a tower, they might get that one rolled so that they're not coming on and they have either nothing starting the tower or have something inferior. But that's a 1 in 6 chance on a mission that's 1 in 6. And so really it comes to this expensive special character, I wouldn't even really bother. I don't think it gives you a lot tactically to the army. You already have a good way of getting a fantastic leadership. You do not want to have this guy in the front anyway. You know, even though he has that big cave squig guy with him, it just isn't worth it. And the only reason I can see people really doing this is if you're going to go a night goblin theme, I'm going all night goblins, then you're going to be taking him anyway. If that's it, fine. You might get a little bit of benefit from the whole, you know, sneaky traps or schemes or whatever it's called. Throw them back in your your bunker. Be done with it. So there you have it. To put night goblins in a fast little summary now. If you do it, you know you're taking a lot of limitations, and so we're not going to be taking any of these war machines or heavy hitters, or usual heavy hitters. So make sure that you have that squig horde in the center, because that's going to be your best unit. Then you're going to be going with your blocks of 100s, making sure to spam even extra. I'm talking 3 to 5 Night Goblin big bosses with great weapons. The outside ones needing defensive lords with hand weapon shield. In your bunker, make your bunker bigger than usual. You're going to need your general. You're going to need the BSB with the +1 leadership. And then for magic, maybe a level 4 in the back. But the good thing to have here is spamming level 1s in your fronts. Finally, if you're going to have fanatics, have them on the outsides, have them in your bunkers, and if you want to go for squig hoppers, keep it as cheap as possible, put in the cave squig to get the most distance and speed of them as possible, and go rush those war machines. So there you have it. I hope for you Night Goblin players out there that this helps. So there you go. Bye.